Hey, Don.
Hey, how's it going, Anders?
Good, good. Things are ready to
Good.
go here on our end.
Oh, beautiful. Fantastic.
You're unmuted, Tony.
Sounds good. Get my mic set up. For anyone listening on the
Yeah, I'm going to need backup here, Tony, because acoustic environment is a very light topic.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine for anyone listening out there. You're gonna get more of me today.
Don't scare them away.
All right, there I go.
You want to test your laptop audio?
It'll be good.
Okay.
Yeah. Whoa. Ooh. You're trying to get this bread and butter. If it's spitting lines, get in line, man. Take a number. Don't mistake me for another one. I palm the mic. I abolish all this like darkness flipping on the light. That's my rhymes, motherfucker.
That's a song I produced at my old music studio.
Really?
Yeah, I did it with a good friend of mine. His name's Leo B. Dope.
Leo B. Dope.
Yeah, he did a song called...
Where was your old studio?
It was located on Ron Robertson and Mackenzie, the location of the infamous Thunder Bay Crave documentary.
Oh!
Yeah, he used to have a house
Yeah.
a block down, and I mean, it's like the worst thing that happens.
That was
in
a
neighborhoods.
dangerous area, wasn't it,
Oh yeah,
Tony?
someone bumps into you and they, hey, you got a smoke? You're like, no. And they're like, okay, see you later, man. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, it was portrayed differently, though.
It was portrayed a little bit
film,
differently.
as I recall.
Yeah, but
Yeah, slightly. Yeah.
so we had
It
a
was
studio there.
portrayed
Where
as
we had
being
all
a
these
much
kids
more
come in
dangerous
and
place.
we recorded. And
That's pretty cool, though, eh? That was in your. Well, I mean, you still do a lot of music stuff, though, don't you? Still, you still do videos and stuff, don't you?
I do music videos and stuff. Yeah, I don't do. I haven't done music production in a while. I still like I do all the radio ads. Like I mean,
Yeah.
Wabte's always like, man, your radio ads are so good. They're so crisp and clear. They're like, you run some of our best ads, and I'm like, yeah.
Oh, really? Is that what they say?
So I have a pedigree in good ads. If Wabte's listening, it's always my pleasure to make ads for you, even though sometimes I'm late or I don't have a topic. I always try to get them in.
I haven't heard any of your ads lately, Tony.
Oh,
Do you have any of them?
I wonder
You
if I
could
can
play
play one.
now?
Let me see
Yeah.
if I can.
The days are getting longer, and we've got data to share with you on the Northern Road Link. So join us at 12 on Tuesdays, northernroadlink.ca for our live stream, or listen to our Wawate live radio show at 2. As we move into summer, we have lots of topics to cover, so that's 12 p.m. on northernroadlink.ca for the link, or listen to us talking about our work while we DJ tunes on the radio show at 2. See you on Tuesdays.
There you go.
I like that, Tony. Crisp sound. You're right.
I got that fake voice when I put the compression on.
Oh yeah, you popped. Yeah. I was just going to say you slipped into it right at the end. You know, when you go down a little deeper, Barry White baritone level.
You
And
know what we need? We need some information about the Northern Road Link, baby.
Exactly. When I know you're going down that deep, there's there's laughing that's going to occur.
Well,
I
we'll have
love when you go down to that level. There's tomfoolery and hijinks to follow for sure.
I'll try to be. I guess I got to be your partner for the show. So
Yes,
I'm warmed up and ready.
Absolutely. Excellent. Excellente.
Speaking of which,
We got
we're
2 minutes,
2 minutes out, so I'm gonna mute the studio here. So
2 minute warning. 2 minute warning.
Yep.
have a good show,
Warning.
guys.
2 minutes.
I'll see you on the radio, my man.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Don Parkinson, and I'm a senior consultation specialist with Atkins Realis. Today, we are continuing our series of live stream topics on the Northern Road Link project as it moves through the provincial environmental assessment and federal impact assessment processes. The topics we are covering parallel our project activities, so we hope these will help our viewers and listeners better understand the project and provide input along the way. As always, we are broadcasting on the Wawate Radio Network to help reach community members about our project. Listeners can call or text us with questions and comments about the project at 1-844-722-4300. That's 1-844-722-4300. We do try to keep the show fun and informal while being informative at the same time. We also take music requests as long as you provide us with a comment or question about the project. This week, I do not have Jennifer as my usual who's normally my co-host, but I've got Tony around somewhere. Is Tony there?
Oh
Tony?
yeah, of course.
Tony,
I'm always here for you,
there
baby.
he is. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be a fun show
I think
We're
it's
going to
really
have a good time. We're going to have a very good time. So good to know you're here. Glad you're on board helping me out. And, well, why don't we get started? How about that?
Excellent.
Today we're going to talk about the Acoustic Environment Studies that we are undertaking as part of the environmental and impact assessments. So, without further ado, let's get started with a little review of what we're going to cover today, and then we'll dive in and work our way through today's topic. And as we mentioned before, mix in some great tunes as well. I've got some, I think, some really good songs, Tony,
I
if I
saw
say
that.
so
Yeah.
myself. You like those? You like any of those?
Yeah. I can't wait to hear them. I haven't heard them in a while.
Yeah, you've probably heard them all before. I'm sure you recognize probably all of them, I guess, eh?
I'm going to be seeing some of them this summer. So,
Oh, who will you be seeing this summer, Tony?
well, without revealing too much, I will be seeing Amy sing on stage. So we'll let our listeners figure out who I could possibly be talking about with a singer named Amy.
Ah, okay. Interesting. All right. So let's get started. So we're going to focus on the acoustic environment, and we're going to focus on noise and vibration as part of that. Do a bit of an introduction, defining noise and vibration. We're going to talk about spatial boundaries, temporal boundaries, which are time boundaries for these studies, noise guidelines, vibration guidelines, the measurement of background noise levels, noise monitoring locations, and then finally possible mitigation methods. And then we're going to wrap up by talking about how you can contact us if you have any comments or questions about the project. So, with that, let's give you some background, get everybody up to the same level in terms of knowledge about the project, and let's start off by describing this project. It's a proposed all-season road in northern Ontario that sits on Treaty 9 land. It is proposed to connect the Ring of Fire mineral deposits to the all-season highway network, the provincial highway network, through the proposed Martin Falls Community Access Road, which is currently undergoing environmental assessment and impact assessment. And in doing so, with another connection called the Webequie Supply Road, the Northern Road Link would help provide an opportunity for Webequie First Nation members to connect to the all-season highway network. And I'll explain this in a little bit more detail in a minute or so. Again, this project is subject to both the Provincial Environmental Assessment Act and the Federal Impact Assessment Act. And what makes this project quite unique is that its proponents are both First Nations. Martin Falls First Nation and Webequie First Nation are remote communities approximately 500 kilometers north of Thunder Bay. And so by remote, I mean they're not accessible by all season roads. So goods and materials get into the community by road, only by winter road, which is a very, very short season and is getting shorter all the time. And otherwise, it has to come in by air. Now, the way this project came about, there have been there is interesting. There were previous studies done looking at this corridor as a transportation corridor, rail, um, uh, all season road and rail as well. And then in 2020, the province of Ontario, with Martin Falls and Webequie, agreed to work together and conduct a provincial environmental assessment for the project. So that's where this all came about. And as I was mentioning before, there are actually 3 all-season road projects that will ultimately connect with each other, starting with the one that began first. Now, all these projects began at different times for different purposes. The Webquay Supply Road is the furthest north, and it is proposed to start at the Webquay Airport and then run southeast and then east to across the Bogatai River near McFalds Lake, where it would then connect to the northern end of the planned Northern Road Link, which then runs south, and then that would connect with the planned Martin Falls Community Access Road, which then runs down south to connect with a couple of upgraded resource roads, and then ultimately to the provincial highway network. So there's a lot of pieces involved in this, and ultimately the Northern Road Link the purpose of the Northern Road Link is to enable economic activity by allowing goods and services and resources to be transported along its route. And as I normally say when it comes to all season road projects, it's more than just a road. The road itself is planned to be all season. It could be anywhere from 117 to 164 kilometers in length, depending. And the reason why I give a range is that we're just in the process of finalizing the corridor, the preferred corridor. And by corridor, I mean the 2-kilometer wide um, band of land and water within which the road would sit. And so we have a number of alternative road segments, and I'll show you a map in a minute so you can follow along as how exactly that works. But that's why we have a range in length for the road. And then the right of way would be for the road would be 100 meters in wide. There would be, as you can imagine, a number of water crossings of the road because there's a lot of water courses in the area and water bodies. There's one large crossing, that of the Attawapiskat River, which is over 200 meters in width, and at the crossing of the potential crossing locations. And then there is what you call ancillary infrastructure or additional infrastructure over and above the road itself that is both temporary and permanent, and that includes temporary storage and laydown areas for equipment and materials. That includes permanent maintenance facilities and yards. It includes access roads to get to facilities such as gravel pits and quarries where construction materials would be extracted and then transported out to help build the road. There would also be construction camps along at different locations along the road, which would house the construction workers, and typically that's where the storage and laydown areas would be as well. So there's lots of other infrastructure components other than just the road itself. And then I mentioned the alternative corridors, and there are, as I said, there are different alternative road segments. So this, I've shown a map earlier, and I know we're using the magic of radio, but if you can visualize a line with different options for segments in different locations, once we choose preferred segments and then connect them together, we will then have like sort of an actual preferred corridor. This is happening very shortly. And this preferred corridor will be sort of our planning area within which the road would sit. We'd move it around. The 2-kilometer width of this corridor allows our team to adjust for any what you call constraints or potential obstacles that we might encounter when trying to finalize where the road should go. And these could be things like burial grounds or other culturally significant areas, or sensitive areas, environmentally sensitive areas that we may not have been aware of previously. We can make adjustments because we've got 2-kilometer wide corridor to work with. So that gives everyone, I think, some background on the project, and I think it's time to play some music. And let me just remind everyone that listeners can call or text us with questions and comments about the project at 1-844-722-4300. That's 1-844-722-4300. I want to remind everyone that we take music requests provided you give us a comment or question about the project.
Yes,
So with
sir.
that, Tony, I've got my first music request for today, and I thought we'd kick things off with a song called "When You Were Young" by the Killers, which I love. What do you think
You
of that
threw a
one?
loop for me. Thought you were going. I thought you were going with a band whose song had 538 million hits.
Really, that many, eh? Wow.
Yeah, your
Yeah,
first.
I always try to mix it up. I don't do it in the order that I provide you in, eh? Like that's deliberate.
You know, the first pick. If anyone can guess any of and call in, I personally will give you $25
Wow.
if they can figure out who Amy is and call in with it, or what song you could be played by a very famous rock band at 538 million hits. It's crazy.
Wow, that is crazy. Well, let's listen to "When You Were Young" by the Killers.
You sit there in your heartache, waiting on some beautiful boy to save you from your old ways. You play forgiveness, watching now, here he comes. He doesn't look a thing like Jesus, but he talks like a gentleman, like you imagine when you were young. Can we climb this mountain? I don't know. Higher now than ever before. I know we can make it if we take it slow. That's taking easy, easy now. Watch it go. We're burning down the highway skyline on the back of a hurricane that started turning when you were young. When you were young. And sometimes you close your eyes and see the place where you used to live. When you were young. They say the devil's water, it ain't so sweet. You don't have to drink right now, but you can dip your feet every once and a little while. You sit there in your heartache, waiting on some beautiful
We are back.
Wow.
That was great song. Great song, isn't it, Tony?
That's great. Thank you for that one. I needed that on this Tuesday. It's nice out, and that just put me in a great mood.
Yeah, it's an awesome song. Who's the lead singer of the Killers? Quick trivia
I
question.
don't know, like I'm pretty good at knowing stuff, but I don't know.
Yes, I thought you'd know right off the hop. Brandon Flowers. Remember that name?
Mr. B Flowers.
Yes.
You
Well,
couldn't
you're
get
such
a
a music
more
man. I thought
you
you
can
would
get a
have
more
known that right
rock
away.
star name than Brandon Flowers.
I know, eh? Isn't that he's just like, and he plays the role too, doesn't he?
Oh yeah.
Great voice.
Yeah.
A friend of
Definitely.
mine says the Killers are the last remaining rock band out there. I'm like, wow, that's quite a statement. It's interesting.
I don't know.
Interesting
Queens of
statement.
Stone Age, Foo Fighters. I mean, there's some I maybe modern rock band, but I don't know,
Yes,
man. I don't know if
modern
I can
rock
agree.
bands. Yeah. Ooh, I should do a little. I should bring him in. You guys can have a musicologist debate.
Yeah, text them and tell them to phone in, and then I can argue with your
Okay,
friend on the
I'll
like
see if I
live.
can get him.
I don't know who you are, but you're gonna listen to me.
Alrighty, let's keep on moving. And hey, we just played music. Why don't we
Yes.
talk about noise and vibration?
Yep.
Yeah, kind of fitting, isn't it? So you
I
know what?
I may cut in on some of this because I have some questions. So I'm curious to see.
Okay, and I can't guarantee answers. So the question you may have is, what is sound? Well, Tony, let me try and answer that question for you. Sound is basically always changing pressure. So it's changes in pressure in a fluid medium, which could be air, could be water, for example. Did you know that?
I did know that. Yeah.
You probably didn't think about it that much, but yeah, that's really what it boils down to.
It's a wave.
And noise. What is noise? Maybe your next question. And one of the best definitions that I've seen for noise is unwanted sound. How about that?
I'm just curious why it's defined as that. Like because noise, like
Sometimes you might want it, right?
but is that a definition, a legal definition? Is it's unwanted for
It's
the
like
purposes
technical
of the
definition,
EA, or
I
is
think.
that just
It's a technical definition, I guess, that's used by people in like specialists in that industry that do this kind of work.
okay?
Isn't that interesting? Like it's a simple definition, obviously, but I thought it was kind of interesting
Yeah.
that
Okay.
that's the definition that they use. Unwanted sound. Anyway, that's that. That's sound. Now we'll talk about vibration. Well, vibration is different. It's the repetitive motion of an object, surface, or fluid. So, Tony, when you think of vibration and you think of an all-season road project, where do you think the vibration might come from?
Well, with those vehicles driving by, the engine noises, I think even
Yeah.
I think even people working on the road with machinery and some of the
Yes.
actually digging the road out, blasting, I imagine would be some of the things.
Yeah. Great points. Great points. Actually, yeah. You're bang on, and we'll get to this a little bit later on, but it primarily occurs during the construction phase, not so
Okay, yeah.
much in the operations phase. So you think the construction phase, you've got heavy equipment, right? Very heavy equipment moving along the roadway. You've worked in construction just like I have, and
Yeah.
if you have like a bulldozer or excavator or something rolling down the road, like a tracked vehicle of something like that, you could feel the vibration. Sometimes a long ways away, but and then when you brought up blasting too,
Yeah.
huge vibrations from those activities, right? To and we'll talk a bit about that, and as a source of vibration and noise as well, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
gravel pits and the quarries where you get the material to build the road with, and vibration can travel through air, it can travel through the ground, it can travel through water as well, it can travel through fluids. So anyway, just that's sort of an introductory kind of slide just to get people
yeah,
thinking about it. And then our next slide, I like the next slide because I think it's kind of interesting, and it's talking about measuring noise and talking about sound levels, and the units are dBAs or decibels. And so this table that we were talking about in the live stream, it goes from very faint, in terms of how humans perceive the sound. It goes from very faint all the way up to deafening. So when you look at very faint, like a person breathing, the sound of them breathing, other than Darth Vader, is typically 5 dBA. If it's Darth Vader, it's probably 20, right? Would you
yeah,
say?
yeah.
Yeah, he was a loud breather. He was a heavy breather, right? He was a mouth breather, I think, wasn't he? Darth Vader.
That's my wife. Wife says to
Then we
me, she says, "I can't sleep. You're a mouth breather."
next. I could tell you a story about about a mouth breather I used to work with.
Oh, okay,
That's
yeah.
a whole other story.
That's a whole other
It's
story.
funny, really funny story actually. Remind me to tell you about that at some
Okay,
point.
yeah. After the
Anyway,
show,
then
yeah.
as we move up from very faint, we talk about faint. So a faint, what would be a faint noise? So if let's say you're in the woods, Tony, you're in the deep woods. Again, let's say your family's taking you to the forest, and then they decide to abandon you for some reason, and they leave you in the deep woods, and you're left there, and you're listening. The sounds you hear are 20 dBA. That would be how loud it is
Okay.
there. And then as we move along to like loud, let's go the classification of loud. So if when you're on the highway and you have a truck pass by, let's say it's 15 meters away, which actually is a bit of a distance, but that's 85 dBA. That's a vacuum cleaner, a vacuum cleaner 1.5 meters away. That's 80 dBA.
Huh.
Normal speech without yelling, 1 meter away, 65 dBA. So it's kind of interesting to hear, where they sort of these sounds would sit. And then when you get into very loud, like a car horn, for example, and I hear these all the time. 3 meters away, 105 decibels. That's a lot. Pretty loud. Jackhammer, 15 meters away, 95 decibels. Pretty loud.
That's pretty loud.
Now let's move to a rock concert. That's considered in the deafening class. So, like the maximum level that a band might hit typically 115 dBA. And then where you start to actually feel pain in your ears, which is kind of scary because you don't want to get to this point, 120 dBA.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. That's not fun. But anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting.
You know
But
what's funny, Don, is
mhm.
we did a project with you where you flew us 300 kilometers to nowhere and left us and dropped us off. We had to jump out of the helicopter. And so it was deafening to jump out. My coat almost got caught in the blades, and I jumped down
Mhm.
and to muck, and then you took off, and I filmed VR, and it was deafeningly silent, in the middle of nowhere.
Obviously, my plan didn't work.
So yeah, I got back. I rode a bear back with my wife, and we got into Pickle Lake in spite of everything you did to leave me in the middle of the woods.
I gave it everything, Tony.
You gave it
I
everything.
gave it everything, and it still didn't work.
You had
You were
horns.
you were just a survivor.
You had growling animal
You
sounds
are a
there.
survivor, Tony. Don't
Yeah.
let anyone tell you you're not. So, I think it's music time, Tony.
Okay.
And I just want to remind everyone, listeners can call or text us with questions and comments about the project at 1-844-722-4300. That's 1-844-722-4300. Again, if you have a music request, we will honor that, provided you give us a comment or question about the project. And I have another song in mind here, another one of my favorite artists. Creed, One Last Breath. You like that one, Tony?
That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
That was 538 million, and now 1. And I do have a song after for our next break that I think is a modern day rock band, so not the last to prove there are. So that'll be my secret.
That'll be our next. Let's play that next, Tony.
Okay, perfect.
Let's start with with One Last Breath by Creed, and then we'll come back.
Please come now, I think I'm falling, holding on to what I think is safe. It seems I found the road to nowhere, and I'm trying to escape. I am back when I heard thunder, but I'm down to one last breath. And will it let me say, hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking maybe 6 feet is so far down. I'm looking down, now that it's over, reflecting on all of my mistakes. I thought I found the road to somewhere in His grace. I cried out, heaven save me, but I'm down to one last breath. And will it let me say, hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking maybe 6 feet ain't so far down. Hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking maybe 6 feet ain't so far down. I'm so far down. Said eyes follow me, but I still believe there's something left for me. So please come stay with me, 'cause I still believe there's something left for you and me, for you and me, for you and me. Hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking. Hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking maybe 6 feet ain't so far down.
We are back. How about that song?
I had a technical issue. My song disappeared, and it was replaced with the video. So I just got to spend 4 minutes looking into his eyes and being mesmerized.
Oh, interesting. So, can that be our next song then? Can we listen to that next?
It's that's something. I haven't seen his face in forever, and when he was young, he had he has quite the eyes.
Interesting. So, is that going to be your? Are you going to make a musical selection? Is that coming up
For the next one,
next?
yeah. If you don't, if you wouldn't
Yeah.
mind, I
Oh,
have
good. Oh,
a
yes,
young rock band.
absolutely. Okay, good, good. I like that. I like that. Okay, let's keep this train on the tracks here. Talk a little bit about spatial boundaries now for noise and vibration. And the interesting thing about noise and vibration is that these are very highly localized effects. And because of that, the regional study area is the same as the local study area. So that's kind of an important thing to remember when it comes to noise and vibration on a project of this nature. Now, when we talk about temporal boundaries, we're talking about time, and so uh, when you're looking at noise, we break it into two different phases. We break it into the construction phase and the operations phase because there are different noise levels at each phase. And but when it comes to vibration, it's only, and we talked a little bit about this before, it only is assessed during construction. And that's because basically after construction, uh, in the operations phase, vibration is pretty minimal. It's mainly the heavy equipment and the blasting that is the source of the vibration, and that's occurring only in the construction phase. And then, just so everyone knows, the construction phase typically for projects of this nature is generally from 3 to 10 years. An operations and maintenance phase is typically equal to sort of the projected lifespan of the road, and that's 75 years, which, obviously in many cases they're extended beyond that, but that's just an arbitrary number that's used for the operations phase. So that gives people an idea of the spatial and temporal boundaries associated with noise and vibration. And with that, I want to remind everyone that listeners can call or text us with questions and comments about the project at 1-844-722-4300. That's 1-844-722-4300. As I mentioned, we take music requests as long as you provide us with a comment or question about the project. And Mr. Tony Macaroni, I understand you have a song that you would like to play. I look forward to this. I'll let you do the intro.
Yeah. And just before I do my song, I just had a quick question. And I know we'll be covering this later to a certain degree, but I know sound and noise and vibration can be very scientific. I was just curious if you had a practical example of maybe a noise that you mitigated with a specific thing. And I know it's part of the presentation later, but I just noticed when I hear these kind of things, no one ever has like a real practical example that people could understand in everyday life, like whether it was fish or vibration. You know what I mean? Like I was just
Yep.
in your
No,
experience,
that's a great question, Tony. Well, you'll see these. Well, I can give you a couple of different examples.
Okay,
One
great.
that's maybe sort of rural or semi-rural, and then another one that's city. So if you can imagine in a big city where you've got an expressway, right, a busy expressway like Highway
Yeah.
401 in Toronto, through Toronto, and you see these walls that border the highway, and those walls are actually not just they're not just concrete walls or just some you know relatively inexpensive material. Those walls are comprised of the actual engineering that goes into the materials
Mm-hmm.
that make up those walls is very, very complex, and it's been evolving over the years. And there's a lot of modeling work that's done where they look, and by modeling I mean where they look at, they put it into a computer system, and then they look at, given how many cars are on the road and each car making a certain amount of noise, how far does the noise spread? And then they look at different situations where if we use this material, if the wall is this high, or if we use that material, and then they do all these different like situations or scenarios. So those noise barrier walls have gotten very, very effective over the years. They
Okay.
can
Okay.
really contain the noise. Like I don't live far from Highway 401, and sometimes I can hear it. But even when when I've gone into neighborhoods that are literally like back onto Highway 401, it's you'd be amazed at how much those walls,
They
because of the
make a
way
big
they're
difference.
engineered, can control the sound. And then in more rural areas, you'll see, or outside of major cities, they'll use, instead of big walls which are expensive to build, they'll use less expensive techniques like building berms, which are like small hills, like usually
Okay.
long sort of tube-shaped hills, and just those little hills themselves that are just done by grading with a bulldozer, that can contain the noise. And of course, putting trees on them, right? And planting trees absorbs a lot of the noise as well too. So those kind of techniques are becoming more and more popular because they're natural, right? So great question, Tony. Great question.
Okay. Okay. Well,
So you've got a song for us, do you?
I have a young band, a little bit controversial at times because people think they emulate a little bit, but I adore them. And it's Greta Van Vliet, and
Oh, right.
I think
Wow.
they qualify as a rock band.
Let's hear it.
We're gonna feel your everything. I feel
Yes,
Wow,
sir.
that was
Yes,
great,
sir.
Tony. That's like, man, does that ever sound like Led Zeppelin, eh?
It's kind of funny because I was listening to an interview with them because they started. I think they made this album when they were 17, and they'd heard the
Wow.
criticism as 17-year-olds, and the lead singer said, "Yeah, I get a lot of comparisons to Robert Plant," and he says I didn't do it because we grew up listening to these records. My parents are musicians, and so we listened to records from the 70s, so we were heavily influenced. But he said the only way I could fit my voice in to be heard with my brother, a lead guitar player who's playing amazing licks, bassist, drummer, all in family because they're all brothers. He said I had to be
Yeah.
shrill, and David Lee Roth would call that the steam whistle type of singing, which is like a shrill, you fit yourself in between all the licks. And so he said, I was just trying to fit in. He says, I wasn't trying to be Robert Plant. I was just trying to fit in. And it just happened. It sounds a lot like Led Zeppelin, right?
Does it ever? Oh my gosh, it's like you could have I could have sworn that it was Led Zeppelin. It was that good, right?
Oh, they're great.
But it's not intentional, like you said.
Yeah, they're just influenced from their parents' records, listening to hundreds of albums, and that's all they had. Their parents wanted to raise them differently, so they're, I believe, schooled differently, and they were given access to rock records. So their parents are musicians. They're like, play. So they started a 1970s rock band, and then when they went out into the real world, they were like, oh wow,
Wow. That was good. That was really, really good. Well, let me continue here with a little discussion on noise guidelines. So, guidelines are very helpful when it comes to environmental assessments. They give us something to compare to when we get our results. So, there's different noise guidelines for different project components. So, for example, with the road, there's the MTO Environmental Guide for Noise. There's the MECP or MTO protocol for dealing with noise concerns during environmental assessments. And then there's also noise guidelines for, and you talked a bit about this before, Tony, aggregate bedrock extraction sites, so pits and quarries as well.
yeah,
So there's guidelines from MECP and the Ministry of the
okay,
Environment, in other words. And then in terms of how they work, just to give you an example, MTO, so Ministry of Transportation, and MECP, Ministry of Environment, their roadway guidelines are based on a difference between the background levels, so the baseline sound levels. We like to talk about the baselines in the EAs, um, or ambient sound levels. So those would be the sound levels when there is no project. So the way it is right now, existing conditions. And then they compare them with after the road is built and operating. That would be the future build sound levels. And then if there's a difference of greater than 5 dBA, then that if there's anticipated to be a difference of greater than 5 dBA, then an investigation of noise mitigation is required. So that's how those guidelines are kind of used.
that's a
Um,
small change. 5 dBA.
it
Is that a
is.
like we're because this is a logarithmic scale, so I mean, if you see a
That's
40
right.
dBA jump, yeah, that. But I mean, that's a fairly small change.
It's very conservative. Yeah, it doesn't take much to trigger a noise and vibration study. Really is and so it's kind of interesting, but I guess it's good. It's always to err. The idea is to err on the side of caution, right, and make sure
Wow.
that all these different aspects are investigated. So noise and vibration are pretty important ones. So because especially in urban environments, when you have, like, I know I can say in Toronto, when they're driving in piles for foundations
Yeah,
on condo sites or building sites. It's extremely loud, right?
extremely loud
And
all
so
day,
there's
all night. Yeah,
all day and sometimes into the night if they're transportation projects and they're
yeah,
allowed to work through the night. So, you know, it's heavily investigated. There's a lot of mitigation techniques which help, you know, to some extent, but still, you know,
I guess
sometimes you just can't avoid it.
I guess largely the worry, because when you think about an urban environment and humans are being disturbed, but we go, you know what, we'll mitigate it, but we have to build this condo. In this
Yep.
environment, it's really got to be a worry about animals and the effects, and with the 5 dBA change, you're really trying to figure out mitigation for these animals. I'm just surprised that's
Yes.
the trigger for.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's right, Tony. Yeah, that's the biggest concern in areas like this. It's impact on animals, really, right? And you know, because it you know, if it was significant noise over a long period of time, sustained period of time, it changes the behavior of the animals, right? Their
Okay,
movement
okay.
patterns would change. A lot of implications from that. And so the same with vibration guidelines. Like I said, that only is assessed during construction because there's effects of vibration really are typically not significant during operations. So there's federal and provincial guidelines. And so in terms of measuring background noise levels, there's a desktop component of the baseline study. Um, you know, where you're determining noise sensitive receptors within the noise sensitive areas for the project. And then the locations of these receptors are within 600 meters of the project footprint. And then the locations are identified through studying the available information and talking to community members as well too, to figure out where to put these receptors as well. And what else can I say?
Would
Well, I
would
guess
would a receptor be a device that's, because I think for the layperson, when you say noise sensitive receptor, I don't know what it is, but I'm assuming it's a measuring device, a sound recording measuring device.
well it could a representative it could be a person that could be a person or thing that could be affected by the noise, if you know what I mean. So for
Okay,
example, so on a project like this, it could be a hunt camp, right?
okay, okay.
That's a potential receptor. So would the
Oh,
project
okay,
affect the hunt camp or activities associated with the hunt camp, or if it's a spiritual site, would the noise levels affect the experience that the individual might have at that particular site? Would it disturb a sacred space, for example? So, you know, we identify on the map, you know, and talk to community members to identify where these receptors are, and then beyond that, you'd set up these. And you know, I don't know if you've seen them before, but we've we set up a couple of them for the Webequie Supply Road project, which are basically listening devices, right? We
yeah,
set them
yeah.
up for a period of time, and we run them, and then they have data loggers, and they record information on like all the sounds over different times of day, and then we're able to establish that baseline of sound, right?
I think
Sound levels.
I think our ornithologists were using it. The bird people were so
Yeah, well,
fascinated in finding new bird species because they were doing background level, and they were like, "Oh, we got a new species. What the heck?"
you're right, Tony. They were using similar devices, right, to record all the noises, the wildlife noises, mainly birds, and then what they would do is they would take the data from that and run it through software, and then it would identify different bird species that were present because it's the software is trained to identify the calls, right?
Okay,
That
yeah.
that it hears, and so it flags that, and so they were able to get an idea without sitting there, you know, all day and all night, themselves, they're able to get an idea of what species are located at that location, which is really kind of interesting.
I think you
So
better
yeah, lots of
sneak a song in, Don. We're getting close.
yeah, we better do that. And then we'll come back and we'll talk quickly about mitigation. We got one more song here. The one I've got in mind is called "What You Want" by Evanescence. If we can play that one.
All right, I
Love
have it.
love Evanescence. Beautiful. Let's listen to "What You Want," and then we'll come back.
Do what you want if you had a dream for better. Do what you want till you don't want it anymore. Remember who you really are. Do what you want. Your world's closing in on you. It isn't over. Stand and face the unknown. Remember who you really are. Every heart in my hands like a pound of pressure. Hello, hello, remember me and everything you can't control. Somewhere beyond the pain, there must be a way to believe we can break through. Do what you want. You don't have to lay your life down. Do what you want till you find what you're looking for. Remember who you really are. Every hour slipping by screams that I have been you. Hello, hello, remember me and everything you can't control. Somewhere beyond the pain, there must be a way to believe. Hello, hello, remember me and everything you can't control. Somewhere beyond the pain, there must be a way to believe. There's still time. Close your eyes. All love will guide you home. Tear down the walls and bring us home. Till we crash, we're forever spiraling down, 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 down. Hello, hello, it's only me infecting everything you love. Somewhere beyond the pain, there must be a way to believe. Hello, hello, remember me and everything you can't control.
Hey, we are back. That was "What You Want" by Evanescence. Another
Wow,
powerful tune by Evanescence. What a voice, eh?
what a great voice! It's incredible.
Yeah, they've got some great songs, just some classics. Well, we are almost out of time, and I just wanted to quickly talk about potential mitigation methods. So, where the federal or provincial noise criteria are exceeded, some of the mitigation measures to limit harmful or negative effects of noise could be relocating equipment, could be choosing different equipment or upgrading equipment. So with different mufflers, for example, to reduce noise levels, use of berms, noise walls, which I talked a bit about before, acoustical screens as well. Tony, you talked about blasting. You can
Yeah,
change the blasting operations to like meet the limits on noise levels by maybe changing where you blast or how you blast, different equipment used, different materials used. And then you can develop a construction code of practice that sets limits on noise emission. That for equipment, noise and vibration guidelines for blasting, especially when it's near water courses as well too, and uh, construction operating times, managing that. Different selecting different equipment and maintaining it maybe in a different way or more regularly, and managing and having a protocol or a system for managing complaints related to noise and vibration as well too. So
That's great.
Tony, thank you for helping me out today. This has been great.
I was glad to help out, my man.
A lot
It
of
was
fun.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a great time, and that wraps up today's discussion of Acoustic Environment Studies. We hope it was helpful and encourages you to join us next week when we discuss the Indigenous Knowledge Studies. Don't forget to keep in touch with our project team members via the contact information available on our website, northernroadlink.ca. Miigwech, and make sure to look out for project updates on social media and our website. Miigwech, and see you soon.
Miigwech, go to northernroadlink.ca. Let's go.